Notion being one of the most popular note-taking tools today for organizing and managing information. It combines note-taking, task management, and databases all together, offering a scalable and customizable platform that facilitates both individual productivity and team collaboration. Users can create and customize workflows like to-do lists, calendars, or knowledge bases to suit their specific needs. With the Notion API, we can extend the platform's capabilities by integrating it with other tools and automating workflows such as automating task creation, syncing updates with tools like Slack or Google Sheets, generating dynamic content, and building custom dashboards or analytics solutions. In this tutorial, I am going to walk you through how to get started with Notion API in Python. To get started, navigate to notion.so/profile/integrations. Before using the API, you need to understand the concept of blocks and pages, as most of the operations reside in those two endpoints. In Notion, pages and blocks are fundamental components, each serving distinct purposes. A page is a container object designed to hold various types of content, including other pages and blocks. Pages are hierarchical and can serve as standalone entities or as subpages nested within parent pages. They act as nodes in a tree structure, allowing for the organization of content into complex systems like databases, wikis, or project spaces. A block, on the other hand, is the smallest unit of content in a page. Each piece of content, such as text, an image, a list, or an embedded item, is represented as a block. In Notion, you have different block types that serve various purposes. For example, text blocks allow you to add paragraphs. Heading blocks help you organize content with titles, and to-do blocks enable interactive checklists. Blocks are highly flexible and can be rearranged, duplicated, or transformed into other types, providing a modular way to structure and organize content within a page. In summary, pages in Notion act as containers for organizing content, while blocks are the individual units that make up the content within a page. A page can hold multiple blocks and even other pages, creating a hierarchical structure for organizing information. Blocks, being modular and versatile, allow for a wide range of content types and layouts, enabling users to structure their pages efficiently. Together, pages and blocks form the foundation of Notion's flexible and dynamic workspace. These will be the examples I am going to cover in this tutorial, mostly pages and blocks. Unless you are trying to do things that are crazy complex, I think these examples will cover at least 90% of the use cases. Unless you are trying to do things that are crazy complex, I think these examples will cover at least 90% of the use cases. To get started, launch your terminal and install the HTTPX and Pandas packages. It is highly recommended that you create a Python virtual environment to isolate your project dependencies. The next step is to create an integration profile. An integration profile serves as a connection bridge between Notion and third-party tools. You can create more than one integrations to manage the assets with different tools. To get started, navigate to notion.so/profile/integrations. Create a new integration profile. Give the profile a name. Make sure you don't include Notion in the profile name as it is not permitted. Select a workspace. There are two types of integrations. Internal integrations are private, single workspace tools tailored to specific workflows, using integration tokens for secure access. They focus on personalization and privacy. Public integrations, on the other hand, can be used by any Notion user in any workspace. They allow members to interact with their workspace using Notion's REST API once the integration has been properly authorized. Choose Internal for the integration type, then click Save. Click Configure Integration Settings. Copy the integration secret to an environment variable or a configuration file for safekeeping. For demonstration, I will create a module to store the API key. Depending on your use case, sometimes you may not need all the permissions. Modify the capabilities if necessary. Click Save to save the settings. At this point, we are done setting up our integration profile. We can now start using Notion API in our development. Launch your code editor and create 4 blank Python files. We will start with working with Notion pages. To use Notion API to automate your workflow, first, we need to add an integration connection to a Notion page. Create a new Notion page. I will call it This is my page. And this is going to serve as the parent page. On the top right corner, click on the 3 dots icon. Scroll down to Connections. Search for the integration profile. In this case, my integration profile is called API Tutorial. Add the connection to the page. When you add the integration connection to the page, the connection will have access to the parent page and its child pages. If you just want to grant access to a single page, you will have to manually remove the connection for all other pages. Just keep that in mind. Unfortunately, I don't think you can add an integration connection directly in the home page. This is a manual step you will have to go through for all the top-level pages. Back to the Python script. In the credential module, I will add 2 more variables, one for Notion endpoint and one for predefined headers. This will save me some time for typing and also for reusability. To connect to Notion API in the headers, we need to provide the API key, content type, and Notion API version. Save the credential module. To create a Notion page, first define a variable to store the page ID. The page ID is the hash number in the URL. On the top, import JSON, HTTPX, Notion endpoint, and headers. Now create a dictionary to define the page property and its content. The parent key identifies the parent page by its ID. The properties key defines the title of the new page using the title property. In this example, the title is set to This is a child page. The children key contains an array of content blocks that will be added to the new page. In this case, I'm adding 2 paragraph blocks, each containing text labeled as block number 1 and block number 2. And to create the page via an API call, send a patch request to the page's endpoint, including the page properties in the data parameter. Now, let me run the script to create the page. I don't see the page being created. Let me check something. Okay. So here I am getting a 400 bad request response from the post request. Let me print the error detail to see what's going on here. From the error description, it is saying the URL is invalid. Let's do some quick debugging. This is probably something you will encounter at one point when you use Notion API. Let's navigate to the Create a Page reference. Okay, the endpoint is correct. On the documentation, it is saying we need to make a post request. In my code, I am making a patch request call instead, which I didn't notice. Let me fix the statement and run it again. This time, from the response, it returns the page object's property. And in Notion, this is a child page is created. In the page, block 1 and block 2 are added in the page. Now let's look at how to update an existing page. If you ever have any questions on how to use an API method, always refer to the documentation. Learning how to navigate API documentations will make you a better developer in the long run. Create a variable to store the child page ID. Then define the updated page properties with the updated attributes. For now, I will change the page title to "This is an updated page." And make a patch request call to update the page. Weird. For some reason, I am getting a read time exception, but I can see the page title got updated. Let me try again. Okay, this time the request call is successful. Not sure what happened, but I think it was just a server issue on Notion's side. Let's move on to learn how to list pages. Let me create a database page with some dummy data. In Notion, a database is essentially just a table with primary key. To list pages under a parent page, create a variable to define the page ID first. Next, make a GET request to the block's children endpoint. The reason we are making an API call to the block endpoint is because when a page is added under a parent page, it is embedded as a block item. You can think of it as being similar to a hyperlink within the parent page. Keep in mind that the API can return a maximum of 100 block items per call. If the page contains more than 100 block items, use the start cursor parameter to specify where the next batch of block items should start. And if we look at the documentation from the query params, the start cursor and page size are the only parameters available. If you have questions on what parameters are available when using an API, documentation is the best place to visit. From the API call response, because it is return a list of blocks that can be either a text block, to-do block, image block, etc. to filter just the pages. Create an empty list to store the page blocks. Then iterate each block from the response. If the block type is either child page or child database, then we can assume those blocks are pages. We then add those blocks to the child pages list, and we will run another loop to print each page item. Now, let me run the script. From the output, 2 pages return, which is what we expected. That's all for the Notion page APIs. Let's move on to working with Notion blocks. We will start out with adding blocks to a Notion page. Go ahead and import the libraries. To add a Notion block to a page, first, create a variable to store the page ID. Notion block is probably the most important component in Notion's API, since at least 80% of the things you do will be in Notion blocks. For that reason, let's take a quick look at the documentation reference for the Notion block type. On the right-hand side, under block type objects, these are all the Notion block types. Paragraph, embed, child page, file are some of the commonly used block types. And on the block reference page, it has all the request body example you can reference. Make sure to visit this page often if you ever get stuck. For the example, I will add a heading, to block, and an image block from a URL to display a photo I took. In the request body, Define the children property as the key, and use a list to define the Notion blocks. In the list, each dictionary represents an individual block, and in each dictionary, set the object property to block, define the block type, and add the property to insert the content. If you have, let's say, 100 URLs or 100 images, or even attachments you need to add to a Notion page, using Notion API to automate the task is going to save you a lot of time. And to add blocks to a page, make a patch request call to the blocks children endpoint and add the request body to the data parameter. Here, let me update the page ID and run the script. Now, if the API call is successful, you should see the heading and image are added to the Notion page. And to list the page blocks, very similar to how we list child pages, except we don't need to filter the content. Seems like the request call didn't go through. I think it's the issue with the page ID. Let me update the page ID and try again. Alright, from the output, we get 7 blocks from the Notion page. The reason why we get 7 blocks is because some of the blocks are empty blocks. If I delete the empty blocks and rerun the script, we now get 4 blocks from the page. Now let's learn how to update a Notion block. To update a block using Notion's API, it's actually pretty straightforward. First, create a variable to store the block ID. In the request body, define the block property with a dictionary and specify the block content. And to update the block content, make a patch request call to the block's endpoint. Seems like my request body is invalid. In the error message, it is saying it is expecting a heading to block type. Oh, so my request body is actually for paragraph block type, and I am trying to update a heading block. Let's look at the block heading reference to see what I need to change. For the block type, it needs to set to heading 2. And for the content, it needs to start from the heading 2 key. The rest is the same. Now let me run the script again. And this time the API call is successful. The heading title is updated to "This is a picture." And if you want to retrieve a specific block's property, make a GET request to the block's endpoint with a block ID. That's all for the Notion block APIs. Let's move on to learn how to retrieve a table content into a data frame. To convert a Notion table into a data frame, in the import statement, import the pandas package. As I mentioned before, in Notion, a database is just a single table with primary key. Depending on where you add the table, a table can be either a Notion block or a Notion page. In this case, my table is a Notion page. So I will grab the page ID as the database ID and store it in a variable. To retrieve a table's content, make a POST request call to the database's query endpoint. The table content will be in the JSON response. Let me comment out the rows extraction and just print the JSON response first. From the output, you will see that the dataset is stored in the properties key. The column name will be the dictionary key to retrieve the values in that column. To convert a Notion table into a data frame, create an empty list to store each row record. Then iterate each item from the results value. In each iteration, We will use an empty dictionary to construct the row record, then append the record to the rows list. And to convert the table content into a data frame, simply pass the rows list to the data frame function. From the data frame output, it displays the same table as the Notion table. Let me add a new row and a column. Noticing from the output, we're only getting 2 columns back, and that is because in a Notion table, the first column is always the primary key column. And primary key column uses a data type called title instead of rich text. So in our code, we need to add one more condition to check if data type is rich text and update the value key. You can refactor the code block a bit further. For now, I just want to keep everything simple and easy to understand. If we print the data frame this time, all the columns are now displayed. The last example I want to show you is how to use the search API to search contents. If we look at the documentation, currently, only pages and databases can be returned. If you want to do a keyword search across Notion blocks, what I would recommend is list all the page blocks property and iterate each block individually to locate the blocks meet the criteria. The search endpoint has 5 parameters: query, sort, filter, start cursor, and page size. Only query is a required parameter. The rest are optional. In the script, import the Python packages. To search for content, make a post request to the search endpoint and set the query as a dictionary to the JSON parameter. In this case, I will search for all the Notion databases in my Notion notebook. Keep in mind that only pages with integration profile added to the connection can be returned. This is very important. From the JSON response, we can iterate the results key to iterate the results. Let's run the script to see what we get. From the output, both the database page and the inline database are returned. And you can use the search API to quickly search through thousands of Notion pages and databases with ease. And that concludes this Getting Started with Notion API tutorial. I hope you found this lesson helpful and informative. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more videos in the future. Happy coding! See you in the next one.